And we are providing special coverage right now, the fallout after President Trump's sweeping new tariffs. The president's imposing a 10% tariff on nearly all foreign imports, higher reciprocal tariffs on roughly 60 countries, and a 25% tariff on all foreign cars and auto parts. The president says these tariffs will boost American industries and jobs by driving companies to manufacture in the U.S., but economists say they'll lead to higher prices and a potential recession. Let's bring in ABC News business reporter Alexis Christoforous for more on this. Alexis, President Trump has been teasing this plan on tariffs for months. So why are we seeing markets drop so dramatically? Didn't investors expect this?
Great question. And some of the analysts I've been talking to say what happened yesterday when President Trump made this announcement was the worst of the worst case scenarios. These tariffs are deeper and more aggressive than almost anyone expected. Not only do we have that baseline across the board 10% tariff against all of our trading partners, but then those individual tariffs against countries that President Trump says are bad actors and have been, in his words, ripping us off for years, including countries like China, which now has a 54% tariff against it. Vietnam, 46%. You know, a lot of companies got around the tariffs on China by making their products, shifting their supply chains over to Vietnam. Now they can't do that. So an example is if you buy a $30 shirt made in Vietnam with that 46% tariff, you're now looking at that shirt costing about $44. Anything from autos to clothing to shoes. We're seeing companies like Nike and Apple who do a lot of business overseas, especially in Asia and Southeast Asia. Those stocks are tumbling right out of the gate today because it's more expensive for them to do business. Overnight, Diane, it's now going to cost the world more money to do business with America, and consumers are going to have to pay the price.
And I want to bring in our White House correspondent, Selina Wang, because, Selina, President Trump says this will give manufacturing a boost. It'll bring jobs to this country. Essentially, this pays off in the long run for him. How long could that take? And what is the White House saying about how to handle this in the meantime?
Yeah, Diane, I mean, that's a process that could take years and years and billions of dollars in investment. But what the White House is saying, that any short-term pain is going to be worth that long-term gain. They say that some unions, they are touting and welcoming these moves from the president. The president saying that this is going to bring a manufacturing renaissance back to this country and create more jobs. But economists are skeptical as to whether or not it's even possible to have a manufacturing renaissance in this country, not to mention the timeline here and the pain that it would cause. It was notable that yesterday in the Rose Garden, the president didn't even acknowledge the burden that American consumers could face. No question here, the president is making a big political gamble. He is betting that this is going to pay off, but he also campaigned on lowering costs for Americans, but this is expected to have the opposite effect. You talked about Alexis there just moments ago about how this was a lot worse and a lot steeper than what a lot of analysts, investors, and economists were expecting. The president, he campaigned on tariffs. He had said before that these were going to be his most aggressive tariffs yet, but this is expected to upend the global trading system, the global economy, and it could also shatter our alliances with some of our closest allies. And for those out there who are hoping to get more certainty from this, there's still a lot of questions lingering. Number one, is it possible that there's room for negotiation here? We've heard mixed messaging on this point from various White House officials, some saying that this is not about negotiation, that this is the end game here. Others are saying that there could be a flurry of talks between now and April 9th when those very steep reciprocal tariffs are expected to go into effect. But in the meantime, this uncertainty, very bad for business.
And Alexis, where are we going to see the biggest impact here? Are there particular things that we shop for and buy where you're going to see a more dramatic impact than in other areas?
Well, autos off the bat, because those tariffs are already in effect. They went into effect at midnight. But it's not like you're going to walk into the dealership today and feel the impact, because dealers have an inventory of cars already on the lots, about 1.5 to 2 months worth. And once those are gone, and the dealers are now bringing in cars or car parts from other parts of the world, that's when we could see those prices move up, depending on the make and model, anywhere from $5,000 more up to $15,000 or $20,000 more for that new car. It's also going to push used car prices up because more people will be priced out of the new car market. They're going to have to go over to the used car market. And then you look at things like groceries, especially perishable items, where, grocers cannot take stockpiles of inventory of tomatoes and bell peppers and avocados. So we could see prices on those things go up in the matter of weeks. Clothing, shoes, really, Diane, pick a category, and in the coming weeks and months, they're expected to go up in price. I do have to say, though, most analysts I'm talking to do not believe the numbers we saw announced yesterday by President Trump are going to hold. They said these numbers are astronomical for some countries, that negotiations are probably happening as we speak, and they do expect those tariff numbers to come down in the weeks ahead.
Selina, Russia is not included in the list of countries facing sweeping tariffs. What's the president saying about that?
Yeah, we haven't heard from the president on that quite yet, but this is certainly a win for Russia. This administration is also trying to normalize relations with Russia as the president is trying to bring the Ukraine war to a close. But I think that Alexis brought up a really critical point there about the flurry of negotiations that could be happening behind the scenes here. We know that the president frequently calls world leaders. We can expect that there could be a lot of horse trading between now and April 9th. Those tariffs on China, absolutely astronomical. We're talking about a 54% tariff rate. That is a 20% tariff rate that President Trump had already imposed. He's now putting 34% tariffs on top of that. There are a lot of questions and confusion as well from our allies because this administration has provided a whole variety of reasons for why they are imposing these tariffs. One of them is the president claims that these countries are ripping us off. He thinks that these countries are going to stop their unfair trading practices because of these tariffs. The president has also talked about using tariffs as a negotiating tool. The president has recently signaled that he could be using tariffs on China as a way to bargain and get Xi Jinping to agree to a deal on TikTok, as a deadline for that app that could be facing that ban is also looming just days from now. So a lot happening at the same time for this administration.
Alexis, the president is also touting this as some short-term pain for long-term gain. Manufacturing has been declining in this country since the 70s. So could this reverse that and pay off in the long run, as the president's promising?
You and I have been talking about this in the weeks leading up to the tariffs. And look, it doesn't happen overnight. A business has to commit to a place in the U.S., to building that manufacturing plant, to then taking on the workers to fill that plant. It's going to take time. It's going to take money. And let's remember, just for a moment, it sounds like a wonderful and noble idea to bring manufacturing and more jobs to the U.S. It costs more to do business in the U.S. than it does in other parts of the world, which is a big reason why a lot of U.S. companies go outside of this country to do their business. If you have these plants here, our labor costs more. It costs more to build those factories. So in the long run, while it may boost manufacturing here in this country, prices may become elevated just because it costs more to do business here, Diane.
All right, Selina, Wang, Alexis, Christoforous, thank you both.